In the late hours of a cold December night in 2035, Dr. Evelyn Hargrove sat alone in her cluttered office at the Kennedy Space Center. The glow of her computer screen illuminated stacks of research papers, old textbooks, and scattered coffee cups, remnants of countless late nights dedicated to her passion, planetary science. Just a year ago, Pluto had been reclassified from a planet to a dwarf planet, a decision that had sent ripples through the scientific community and sparked countless debates among astronomers and the public alike. Evelyn had always been fascinated by Pluto, its icy surface, and the mysteries it held beneath layers of frozen nitrogen and methane. But as she read through her latest findings, she felt a twinge of unease. Something didn't add up. Data doesn't lie, she whispered to herself, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. It was a phrase she had learned in her early days as a researcher, yet lately it felt like a fragile mantra. The truth about Pluto was being silenced, hidden beneath layers of bureaucracy and misinformation. What had once been a source of wonder had turned into a subject of intense scrutiny and conspiracy. Her latest analysis had revealed anomalous readings from the New Horizons spacecraft, which had flown by Pluto in 2015. The data indicated strange gravitational fluctuations that shouldn't exist for a body of its size. She had tried to present her findings at the last conference, but her voice had been drowned out by dismissive remarks from her peers. "Pluto is just a big rock," they had said, waving her off as if she were a child. "Move on, Evelyn. Focus on more important things." But Evelyn couldn't let it go. As she dug deeper, she found herself uncovering strange reports from former NASA employees who claimed they had witnessed things that contradicted the agency's public narrative. They spoke of classified documents, encrypted messages, and unexplained phenomena detected by the spacecraft. One night, while poring over these documents, she stumbled upon a name that sent chills down her spine. Project Nightshade. What was it? What had NASA discovered? Her heart raced as she connected the dots between the eerie data and the whispers of cover-ups. Evelyn decided it was time to dig deeper. She needed to get her hands on the original data files from New Horizons. There had to be something hidden there, something that would explain the discrepancies. But that meant going against the system, breaking rules she had sworn to uphold as a scientist. Determined, she stayed late that night, the dark silence of the office only interrupted by the soft hum of the air conditioning. Her mind raced with possibilities, each more unsettling than the last. She envisioned a hidden world, shrouded in darkness, where things lurked beneath the icy surface of Pluto, waiting for their time to emerge. Suddenly, her computer screen flickered. An email notification popped up. "Evelyn, we need to talk, urgent." It was from an anonymous sender. The email contained no name, no subject line, just a string of encrypted messages and coordinates. Evelyn's heart raced. Was this a prank or a warning? Curiosity gnawed at her. She had to know. She clicked on the coordinates, her mind racing with the implications. It led to a remote location deep within the Arctic, a place where few dared to venture. What could possibly be hidden there? Before she could second-guess her decision, she began making arrangements. She'd gather her gear, inform no one of her plans, and head to the Arctic. This was her chance to uncover the truth. The thrill of discovery mingled with the fear of what she might find. As she packed her bags, Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Shadows seemed to shift in the corners of her vision, and the air felt heavy with unspoken words. She brushed it off as paranoia, but deep down she knew there was something more at play. With a final glance around her office, she left, locking the door behind her. Little did she know that her quest for the truth would lead her into the darkest corners of the universe, where ancient secrets and unspeakable horrors awaited her. Evelyn arrived at the Arctic base 2 days later, the chill of the wind biting through her thick jacket as she stepped out of the small, unmarked plane that had flown her to this desolate corner of the world. The horizon stretched endlessly, a vast expanse of white snow and ice under a bleak grey sky. The remote facility was a cluster of weathered buildings, half buried in snow, their windows dark and unwelcoming. As she made her way to the main building, her heart raced with a mix of excitement and dread. The air was heavy, almost electric, as if the very atmosphere were charged with something ominous. She pushed through the door and was greeted by the stark interior of the base, a few flickering lights overhead and the faint hum of generators. "Dr. Hargrove, right?" a voice interrupted her thoughts. A tall man with a scruffy beard and tired eyes stood in the entrance. He wore a parka and looked like he hadn't slept in days. "I'm Dr. Daniel Fisher. I was told you'd be coming." Evelyn nodded, feeling a surge of urgency. "I received an email with coordinates. It mentioned something about Project Nightshade. I need to know what you found." Daniel's expression shifted from curiosity to concern. "You shouldn't be here, Evelyn. Project Nightshade isn't something to toy with. It's classified for a reason." "But I'm not toying with anything. I think I've found evidence that NASA has been hiding something about Pluto. Something important," she pressed, her voice steady. He hesitated, glancing around the empty room before motioning her to follow him deeper into the facility. "All right, but you need to understand. What we discovered is far more terrifying than you can imagine." As they walked, Daniel led her through narrow corridors lined with faded photographs of past expeditions. The walls were covered in peeling paint, and the atmosphere felt heavy with the weight of secrets. He finally stopped at the door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." Once inside, Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. The room was filled with monitors displaying live feeds from various research stations across the Arctic. But the real focus was a massive table in the center covered with maps and documents. "Here," Daniel said, gesturing to a series of files labeled Pluto Data Analysis. "What we found was a series of strange signals originating from the dwarf planet. They're not just random, they seem to be coordinated." Evelyn leaned closer, her eyes scanning the reports. The data showed spikes in gravitational activity and a series of radio frequencies that didn't match any known cosmic phenomena. Her heart raced as she realized the implications. "What kind of signals?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Some kind of communication. We believe it's artificial in nature," Daniel replied, his voice low and serious. "When we dug deeper, we found references to ancient texts and symbols that align with the patterns we've detected. It's like something is trying to reach out." The weight of his words settled heavily in the air. Evelyn's mind raced with the possibilities. Could it be extraterrestrial? Did Pluto harbor life? Intelligent life? Daniel continued. "But that's not the worst of it. During the last expedition, our team encountered something we couldn't explain. A structure buried beneath the ice. We think it might be a spacecraft or something even older." Evelyn's pulse quickened. "A spacecraft? What happened to your team?" He hesitated, swallowing hard. "They didn't come back. The gravity of the situation sunk in. She was drawn into something larger than herself. Something that could change everything she knew about the universe. We have to investigate it," she insisted, her voice filled with determination. "Evelyn, you don't understand. Whatever is out there, whatever is beneath that ice, is not friendly. I can show you the recordings we took. You need to see it for yourself." Daniel led her to another room where a bank of computers hummed softly. He pulled up a video feed, the screen flickering to life. At first, it showed a group of scientists in Arctic gear, their faces full of excitement as they approached the mysterious structure. But as they got closer, the mood shifted. Evelyn watched, transfixed, as the video displayed the structure. A massive angular form, half buried in ice, covered in strange symbols that glowed faintly. The scientists moved cautiously, their voices filled with awe and trepidation. Suddenly, the feed crackled, and the scene shifted to chaos. The scientists were scrambling, shouting into their radios. And then, static. The screen went black. "Daniel!" Evelyn gasped, her hands gripping the edge of the desk. "What happened to them?" "We don't know," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. "But we found this." He pulled out a small device, a data recorder. "It has the last moments of their expedition. You need to hear it." Evelyn took the recorder, her hands trembling. As she pressed play, the recording crackled to life. The voice of one of the scientists filled the room, frantic and panicked. "Something is here. We're not alone. It's moving beneath the ice." The audio was filled with shouts and the sound of rushing footsteps. "We need to get out. It's coming for us." The recording cut off abruptly, leaving an unsettling silence in its wake. Evelyn's heart raced. What had they encountered? What had they unleashed? "Evelyn, we need to be cautious," Daniel urged, his expression grave. "We have no idea what we're dealing with." But Evelyn felt a surge of adrenaline. This was the moment she'd been searching for, the truth hidden beneath layers of ice and lies. "We need to go to the coordinates," she insisted. "We need to find out what they discovered. We can't turn back now." Daniel hesitated, but then nodded slowly, determination etched on his face. "All right, but we'll need a team. We can't face this alone." As they began to make plans for the expedition, Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that something in the depths of the ice was aware of their presence. She brushed it off as paranoia, but deep down she knew that whatever lurked beneath Pluto's surface was not just a scientific curiosity. It was a harbinger of something much darker. Over the next few days, Evelyn and Daniel assembled a small team of researchers, each with their own specialties: geologists, astrobiologists, and a seasoned Arctic guide who had braved the frozen wilderness for years. Each member brought their own fears and hopes, and as they gathered supplies and reviewed the data, a palpable tension hung in the air. They were about to step into the unknown, into the very heart of the Arctic, and Evelyn sensed that their expedition would not only test their scientific skills, but also their sanity. The night before their departure, Evelyn sat alone in her room, unable to sleep. Her mind raced with thoughts of the structure beneath the ice. What if they uncovered something that could change everything? Or worse, what if they didn't return? A soft knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. It was Daniel, looking worn and anxious. "Can't sleep either?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe. "Too much on my mind," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if we're not prepared for what we might find?" Daniel sighed, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "I've been thinking the same thing. But we have to know, Evelyn. Whatever's down there could be history in the making, or a warning for what's to come." She nodded, the weight of his words heavy in her chest. "What if it's a weapon? Or a trap?" He shook his head, trying to maintain optimism. "We can't jump to conclusions. We need to keep an open mind. But we'll stick together, all right? No one goes off alone." Their conversation was interrupted by a loud bang from the hallway, followed by hurried voices. They exchanged a worried glance and rushed out of the room, their hearts pounding in unison. As they reached the common area, they found the rest of the team gathered around a monitor, their faces pale and drawn. "What's going on?" Evelyn demanded. One of the geologists, a young woman named Clara, pointed to the screen, where a live feed showed a storm brewing outside. The wind howled like a banshee, and snow whipped through the air in violent gusts. But that wasn't what terrified them. It was the strange dark shapes moving through the storm. "What are those?" Daniel whispered, squinting at the screen. "Whatever it is, it's not natural," Clara replied, her voice trembling. "It looks like something is moving beneath the surface." Evelyn's heart raced as she took in the scene. "We need to leave as soon as the storm passes," she urged. "This isn't just a storm. It feels like a warning." Hours passed as they huddled together, watching the storm rage outside. Tension filled the air, and they shared nervous glances, each person caught in their own spiral of fear. As the wind howled, it felt like whispers of an ancient language echoed around them, chilling them to the bone. When the storm finally began to subside, the team gathered their gear and prepared to head out. With each step outside, the air felt heavy and thick, laden with an unexplainable dread. The white landscape stretched before them, desolate and uninviting, as they trudged through the snow toward the coordinates that had sparked this entire expedition. After several hours of walking, they arrived at the location marked on the map. Before them lay a massive expanse of ice, glimmering under the pale sun. But as they got closer, the ground began to tremble beneath their feet. "What the hell is happening?" Clara shouted, looking around in panic. The earth shook violently and cracks began to spread across the ice, revealing dark crevices beneath. The ground erupted, sending shards of ice flying into the air, and with a deafening roar, something emerged from below. A towering structure, ancient and alien, its surface covered in pulsating symbols. Evelyn stood frozen in shock, her mind racing with questions. "What is it?" she breathed. Daniel's voice trembled as he whispered, "It's real. It's all real." As they approached the structure, they noticed that the symbols on its surface seemed to shift and change, as if alive. A low hum emanated from deep within, vibrating through the ground beneath their feet. "We should turn back," Clara said, her voice shaky. "This isn't right." But Evelyn felt an irresistible pull towards the structure. "We have to investigate. We can't turn back now." With trepidation, the team approached the massive entrance, which gaped like the maw of a beast, dark and foreboding. The air grew cold as they stepped inside, the light from outside fading into shadow. The interior was unlike anything they had ever seen. Smooth, reflective walls that glimmered in the dim light, and an unsettling silence that swallowed their footsteps. Evelyn's heart raced, but she pressed on, drawn deeper into the darkness. "What do you think this place is?" Clara whispered, her voice barely audible. "I don't know," Evelyn replied, her pulse quickening, "but we're about to find out." Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the halls, reverberating off the walls. The team froze, their hearts pounding. "Did you hear that?" Daniel whispered, his voice tinged with fear. Before anyone could respond, the lights flickered, and a shadow moved at the edge of their vision. Evelyn turned sharply, her heart racing. But when she looked, there was nothing there, just the oppressive darkness, thick and suffocating. "Maybe we should go back," Clara suggested, her voice trembling. Evelyn's mind raced with possibilities, but she felt an unyielding need to push forward. "Just a little further," she urged, leading the way down the corridor, the air growing colder with each step. They reached a large chamber, its ceiling lost in shadows. In the center stood a pedestal, and upon it rested a crystalline object that pulsed with a strange light. "What is that?" Daniel asked, stepping closer. Before Evelyn could respond, the object surged with energy, and the symbols on the walls flared to life, illuminating the chamber in an eerie glow. The hum intensified, vibrating through their bones. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the chamber, deep and resonant. "You seek the truth, but are you prepared to bear the weight of knowledge?" Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. The voice was not just an echo. It felt as if it resonated within her very soul. "What do you mean?" she called out, her voice trembling. "The truth lies buried in the heart of darkness." The voice continued, "The world is not what it seems. Pluto holds secrets that mankind was never meant to uncover. You will awaken that which has slumbered for eons." A chill swept through the room, and the team huddled together, fear etched on their faces. "We need to get out of here!" Clara shouted, backing away from the pedestal. But Evelyn felt a surge of determination. No, we can't turn back now. We need to understand what this means. Those who dare to seek the truth must accept the consequences. The voice boomed and the ground trembled once more. Before they could react, the chamber shook violently and the ceiling began to crack, ice and stone falling around them. The voice continued, relentless and ominous. The door has been opened. The hunt has begun. Beware the watchers in the dark. Panic set in as the team scrambled towards the entrance, but the shadows in the room began to shift, coalescing into dark forms that moved with unsettling speed. The echoes of their fear mixed with the whispers of ancient knowledge, filling the chamber with a cacophony of terror. Evelyn felt a cold dread wash over her as the forms drew closer, their intentions unreadable. "We have to get out, now!" she shouted, and they bolted toward the entrance. As they fled through the twisting corridors, the shadows pursued them, their whispers growing louder, filling the air with an unbearable weight. Evelyn's heart raced as she pushed forward, driven by instinct. Just as they reached the entrance, a shadow lunged forward, its form shifting and undulating like smoke. Evelyn felt a cold grip on her ankle, pulling her back. "Evelyn!" Daniel shouted, but it was too late. The shadows enveloped her, and she felt a darkness seep into her very being, whispering secrets meant only for the damned. With a surge of adrenaline, she broke free, stumbling into the cold air outside. The rest of the team was waiting, their faces pale with fear. "What happened?" Clara gasped, her breath visible in the frigid air. Evelyn shook her head, trying to regain her composure. "We need to leave, now. Whatever is down there, it's waking up." As they hurried back to the research base, the oppressive weight of the structure loomed in the distance. The shadows were no longer just echoes of fear. They were alive, watching from the depths of the ice, hungry for the knowledge that had been unearthed. Back at the research base, the team huddled in the common area, the atmosphere thick with anxiety. The once cheerful hub of scientific exploration now felt like a prison, haunted by the events that had unfolded just hours before. Evelyn paced the room, her mind racing with the implications of what they had uncovered. "We need to analyze the data we collected," she insisted, her voice firm. "We can't let fear stop us. We have to understand what we're dealing with." Daniel nodded, his expression serious. "I agree, but we also need to prepare for what we might find. If those shadows were real, if they are connected to the structure, we need to be ready for anything." The team spent the next few hours reviewing the footage from the expedition, piecing together their experience as if it were a jigsaw puzzle. Evelyn noticed a pattern in the symbols, something that seemed to resonate with the frequencies they had detected from Pluto. "We need to get back to the data," Clara said, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she pulled up the readings from the structure. "There has to be something here that can help us make sense of this." As they analysed the information, Evelyn felt a growing sense of unease. The shadows they had encountered seemed to be tied to something larger, a consciousness that transcended time and space, awakening after eons of slumber. The hours blurred into a frantic race against time, and as the clock ticked away, the shadows outside began to shift, dark tendrils reaching for the base like fingers of a forgotten nightmare. Then the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness. A wave of panic washed over the team, and they scrambled for their flashlights, the beam of light cutting through the oppressive blackness. "What's happening?" Clara shouted, her voice rising in fear. "It's the storm," Daniel said, trying to sound calm. "It must have knocked out the generators." But as the darkness pressed in around them, Evelyn felt a chill that went beyond the cold. The shadows seemed to pulse and writhe, creeping into the corners of the room, whispering promises of knowledge long forgotten. "We need to get to the backup generator," Evelyn said, her heart pounding. "Stay together and let's move." As they navigated the narrow hallways, the shadows seemed to close in around them, their whispers growing louder, more insistent. "You sought the truth, now you will bear the weight." Evelyn's skin prickled as the shadows flickered at the edge of her vision. Each step felt heavier, as if the very air was thickening, pressing down on them. They reached the generator room, and Clara quickly got to work, her hands shaking as she tried to reboot the system. Come on," she muttered under her breath. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the base, and the lights flickered back on, bathing the room in harsh fluorescent light. But their relief was short-lived, as the shadows began to coalesce into tangible forms, swirling around the room like smoke given life. Evelyn could see faces in the shadows, distorted, twisted faces that flickered like memories just out of reach. "You have awakened us. You will not escape." Daniel grabbed Evelyn's arm, his eyes wide with fear. "What are they? What do they want?" "I don't know," Evelyn shouted, trying to push through the panic. "But we can't let them get to us. We need to find a way to stop them." Clara's voice trembled as she pointed toward the monitors. "Look." On the screens, the readings from the structure began to spike, the symbols pulsing in sync with the shadows surrounding them. "It's like they're feeding off the energy," Clara said, her eyes wide with realization. "We have to shut it down." "Then let's go," Daniel urged, and they rushed back through the hallways, their hearts pounding as they retraced their steps to the main control room. As they reached the main room, the shadows pressed in closer, their whispers becoming a cacophony of voices. "The truth is a curse. You should never have come." Evelyn felt a deep sense of dread, but she pushed it aside. "We need to find a way to sever the connection. Clara, can you access the data we collected from the structure?" Clara nodded, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "I can try. If I can isolate the energy signatures, maybe we can reverse the flow." As Clara worked, the shadows intensified, swirling around them like a storm. Evelyn could feel the cold seeping into her bones, and she struggled to focus. "Come on, Clara. We don't have much time." "I'm trying," Clara shouted, her face tense with concentration. "But there's so much interference." Just then, one of the shadows lunged forward, reaching for Clara. Daniel grabbed her, pulling her back just in time as the shadow dissipated into the air, leaving a chilling laughter echoing through the room. "You cannot hide from the truth. You cannot escape." Evelyn felt a surge of defiance. "We can't let them control us. Clara, keep going." With renewed determination, Clara continued typing furiously, the screens flickering with chaotic energy readings. The shadows pressed in closer, their whispers becoming frenzied, filling the air with a sense of impending doom. "Almost there," Clara murmured, her voice strained. "Just a little more." The shadows began to swirl violently, and Evelyn felt the temperature drop even further. The air crackled with energy, and she could sense that something terrible was about to happen. "You have awakened the Watchers. Now you will face the consequences." In that moment, the room erupted with blinding light as Clara hit the final key. The monitors surged with energy, and the symbols on the walls began to glow brightly. "No!" the shadows screamed, their forms twisting in agony as the light intensified. The energy surged through the base, resonating with the ancient structure buried beneath the ice. Evelyn felt a wave of relief wash over her as the shadows began to dissipate, their voices fading into echoes. But just as the chaos subsided, a new sound filled the air, a deep rumbling that shook the very foundation of the base. The ground trembled violently, and the walls began to crack. "We need to get out!" Daniel shouted, urgency lacing his voice. They bolted towards the exit, but as they reached the door, the ground shook violently, sending them sprawling to the floor. The shadows were gone, but the structure was collapsing, and they could feel the weight of centuries of secrets bearing down upon them. "Run!" Evelyn yelled, scrambling to her feet as they raced through the corridors. The sound of cracking ice echoed around them, and they could feel the base shaking, as if it were coming apart at the seams. The whispers of the shadows faded into a haunting silence, leaving behind a sense of loss and dread. As they burst through the exit and into the frigid air, the sight before them was both beautiful and terrifying. The structure had begun to crumble, collapsing into itself as the earth shifted beneath them. The once towering form was now a pile of rubble, the symbols fading into darkness. They stood in stunned silence, the cold wind biting at their skin, their breaths visible in the air. But as they turned to each other, a new fear gripped Evelyn's heart. "What if it's not over?" she whispered, the words heavy with dread. As if in response, a distant rumble echoed across the landscape, sending a chill down their spines. The ground trembled once more, and Evelyn felt a dark presence lingering in the air, a reminder that the truth they had uncovered was far from finished. The days that followed their harrowing escape were filled with a deep sense of disillusionment. They had survived, yes, but the knowledge they had uncovered felt like a poison creeping through their minds. Evelyn often found herself staring at the walls of the base, the shadows of their encounter looming larger than life in her memory. The team gathered regularly, sharing their thoughts and fears, but the atmosphere grew heavier with each passing day. The nightmares began to seep into their dreams, visions of twisted shapes lurking just beyond the reach of light, whispers that echoed in the corners of their minds. One evening, Evelyn found herself alone in the common area, the flickering lights casting shadows that seemed to dance on their own. She reached for her coffee cup, but as she lifted it to her lips, she froze. The whispers returned, softer this time, but unmistakable. "The Watchers are always near. You cannot hide from the truth." A shiver ran down her spine, and she slammed the cup down, the ceramic clattering against the table. Panic surged in her chest, and she grabbed her notes, frantically searching for a way to make sense of the madness. "Evelyn," Daniel's voice broke through her thoughts, and she looked up to find him standing at the entrance, concern etched on his face. "You okay?" "Just thinking," she replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Maybe we should talk," he suggested, stepping closer. "I know we've all been on edge since the incident, but we can't let it control us." She nodded, grateful for his presence. "I know, but it feels like something is still out there, watching us." Daniel's expression darkened, and he glanced toward the windows, the dark Arctic landscape stretching before them. "We need to confront this. We can't let the fear dictate our lives. We have to find a way to move forward." Evelyn agreed, but deep down she felt the weight of uncertainty. What if we can't? What if the truth we uncovered is something we're not meant to understand? He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll figure it out together, just like we always have. We need to gather our findings and share them with the world. We have to warn others about what we encountered." That night, as they sat together poring over the data they had collected, a sense of purpose began to emerge from the chaos. They organized their findings, cataloging the readings and symbols, creating a comprehensive report detailing the ancient structure and the shadows they had faced. But the further they delved into their research, the more Evelyn felt the echoes of the past tugging at her. It was as if the shadows were still present, lurking just beneath the surface of their consciousness. Days turned into weeks, and as the team prepared to present their findings, the sense of unease only intensified. Each night, Evelyn found herself waking in a cold sweat, the whispers haunting her dreams. Then the day arrived. They gathered in the conference room, ready to unveil their findings to the scientific community. Excitement buzzed in the air. But as Evelyn stood at the front, looking at the faces of her colleagues, she felt a wave of doubt wash over her. "Are we ready for this?" she thought, her heart racing. As she began her presentation, laying out the data and showing footage from their expedition, she could see the intrigue on their faces, but the shadows whispered in her mind, filling her with an overwhelming sense of dread. "They will not understand," the voice echoed, deep and resonant, reminding her of the ancient warning. Just as she reached the pivotal moment of her presentation, the lights flickered ominously. The audience murmured, and she felt her heart race. "You awakened us. Now you will face the truth." Panic surged through her, and she fought to maintain her composure. "We discovered an ancient structure beneath the ice, one that harbors secrets long forgotten. It is connected to something far greater than we can comprehend. We need to approach this with caution." But as she spoke, a shadow flickered at the edge of her vision, and she faltered. "We cannot ignore what we encountered." The shadows. The lights went out completely, plunging the room into darkness. A cold wave washed over them, and the whispers returned, echoing through the room like a haunting symphony. "You cannot escape the truth. It will find you." Panic erupted in the room, and Evelyn's heart raced as she felt the presence of the shadows creeping closer. "Stay calm," she shouted, her voice barely cutting through the chaos. But as the lights flickered back on, the audience was in a state of panic, many scrambling for the exits. Evelyn stood frozen, unable to comprehend what was happening. Daniel rushed to her side, his face pale. "We need to get out of here." As they made their way through the panicking crowd, Evelyn felt a deep sense of despair. "What if they follow us? What if we can't escape?" The shadows were not just in her mind. They were real, and they were hunting her. As they fled the building, a deep rumble echoed from the ground, and the world around them seemed to tremble. "You have awakened the Watchers. You cannot escape," the voice echoed through the chaos. They stumbled outside into the cold night air. The Arctic landscape stretched before them, eerily still. The ground beneath them trembled as if it were alive, and the whispers grew louder, reverberating through the air. "You will face the consequences." Evelyn could feel a weight pressing down on her, and she fell to her knees, gasping for breath. "We can't let them take us," she cried, desperation lacing her voice. Daniel grabbed her arm, pulling her to her feet. "We have to face this together, Evelyn. We can't give in to the fear." The air crackled with energy, and the shadows began to rise around them, swirling like a storm. "The truth is a curse, and now it is yours to bear." Evelyn's heart raced as the shadows closed in, their whispers filling her mind with terror, but deep down she felt a spark of defiance ignite within her. "No, we will not be controlled by your fear." With a surge of determination, she and Daniel pushed forward, their voices rising above the chaos. "We will face the truth, whatever it may be." As they stood together against the darkness, the shadows hesitated, swirling uncertainly around them. The whispers faltered, replaced by a resonant silence that filled the air. "You seek the truth, but know that knowledge comes with a price." Evelyn took a deep breath, holding onto Daniel's hand tightly. "We are ready to face whatever comes next," she declared, her voice steady. With that, the shadows began to dissipate, the darkness receding into the night as if acknowledging their resolve. The world around them slowly settled, and they stood there in the quiet aftermath, the weight of knowledge pressing heavily on their shoulders. As they turned to each other, a sense of hope flickered in their hearts. They had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, but the truth they had awakened would always be a part of them, lingering in the shadows of their minds. Months passed since the incident, and the Arctic research base had become a place of reflection. The shadows that had haunted Evelyn and her team began to fade, but the memories remained vivid, etched into their minds like scars. Evelyn often returned to her notes, trying to make sense of the experience. She was determined to share their findings with the world, to warn others of the truth that lay beneath the ice. But as she worked, the whispers occasionally resurfaced, echoing in her thoughts. You cannot escape the truth. It will always find you. Despite the lingering unease, she pressed on, determined to transform their experience into a meaningful narrative. Daniel remained by her side, providing support as they crafted a comprehensive report detailing their expedition, the ancient structure, and the shadows they faced. As they prepared to publish their findings, a sense of purpose began to bloom within Evelyn. She knew that sharing their story was vital, not only for their own closure, but for the future of exploration and understanding. Finally, the day came when their research was ready to be presented at an international conference. Evelyn stood at the podium, her heart racing as she faced an audience filled with scholars, researchers, and journalists. "Thank you for joining us today," she began, her voice steady, despite the butterflies in her stomach. "What we discovered beneath the ice of Pluto is not just a scientific anomaly. It is a reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of our knowledge." As she spoke, the audience listened intently, captivated by the story of their expedition and the truths they had uncovered. She shared footage of the ancient structure, the pulsating symbols, and the harrowing encounters with the shadows. But as she reached the climax of her presentation, the lights flickered ominously, and a chill swept through the room. Evelyn's heart raced as the whispers echoed in her mind once more. "You cannot hide from the truth. You have awakened us." Panic rippled through the audience, and Evelyn struggled to maintain her composure. "This is not just a warning about our findings," she continued, her voice shaking. "It is a call to respect the unknown, to acknowledge that some truths may be better left buried." Just then, the lights went out completely, and the room plunged into darkness. The whispers grew louder, reverberating through the silence. "The Watchers are always near. You have awakened us." In the chaos, Evelyn felt a cold grip on her heart, fear threatening to consume her. But as the shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, she remembered Daniel's words. They had faced the darkness together once before, and they could do it again. "Stay together," she shouted, rallying the audience. "We can face this if we stand united." As the lights flickered back on, the audience appeared disoriented but ready to listen. Evelyn could see fear in their eyes, but also a determination to confront the unknown. "We will not let fear control us," she declared, her voice ringing with conviction. "We must embrace the shadows, learn from them, and tread carefully as we explore the depths of knowledge." With her words, the energy in the room began to shift. The shadows retreated, and the whispers faded into silence. The audience slowly returned to their seats, eyes wide with realization. In that moment, Evelyn understood the price of knowledge. It was not just about uncovering truths, but also about respecting the boundaries that came with them. The shadows would always be a part of their journey, a reminder of the weight of discovery. As she concluded her presentation, the room erupted in applause, but even in the midst of celebration, a part of Evelyn remained vigilant, aware that the truth they had awakened was a double-edged sword. Part 7. The Legacy of Shadows. Years passed since the Arctic expedition, and Evelyn continued her work in the field of research, sharing her findings and advocating for a deeper understanding of the mysteries that lay beneath the surface of exploration. The shadows had become a topic of discussion in academic circles, sparking debates on the ethics of uncovering ancient truths. Evelyn often found herself reflecting on that fateful expedition, the lessons learned, and the price they had paid. But even as she moved forward, she could feel the whispers of the past lingering in the corners of her mind. They were a reminder that knowledge came with a cost, and the shadows would never truly fade. One evening, as she sat in her office reviewing new data from ongoing research, she received a call from Clara. Her voice was filled with excitement. "Evelyn, you won't believe what I found in the archives. There's more to the story of that structure." Evelyn's heart raced as Clara shared her discovery. A series of ancient texts that hinted at the existence of similar structures across the galaxy, each harboring their own secrets. "This could change everything," Clara said, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. "We need to investigate." Evelyn hesitated, memories of their encounter with the shadows flooding her mind. "I don't know, Clara. What if we awaken something else?" "We can't live in fear of what might happen," Clara replied, determination lacing her words. "We owe it to ourselves, to the world, to uncover the truth. This is an opportunity we can't pass up." After much deliberation, Evelyn agreed to join Clara in her research. They gathered a new team composed of eager young scientists ready to explore the unknown. The expedition was set and excitement buzzed in the air. As they prepared to embark on their journey, Evelyn felt a mix of anticipation and trepidation. She knew that the shadows of the past would always linger, but perhaps it was time to confront them once more. With each step into the unknown, Evelyn felt the weight of the truth they sought, and she was determined to face it head-on. The legacy of the shadows would guide them, illuminating their path as they ventured into the depths of knowledge. And as they set out, the whispers of the past echoed softly, a reminder that every truth uncovered would leave its mark, and the shadows were not just remnants of fear, they were a part of the journey toward understanding.